Dharmesh Sheth is here. Good to see you, Dharmesh. Yeah, let's start with Ruben Amorim then, the new Manchester United head coach. So, Dharmesh, Man United moved really, really quickly. How do they get this done?
Yeah, that's an understatement. They move really quickly, really efficiently, and it should be said here that Manchester United only spoke to Ruben Amorim since Erik ten Hag signed that contract in July, that contract extension in his contract. Before that, it was an open secret that Manchester United were talking to a lot of managers while they were conducting that post-season review on whether Erik ten Hag was going to stay at the football club or not. But once they decided that they were going to keep Erik ten Hag, and listen, they wanted him to stay and they wanted it to work, but it's not worked. And I think they've admitted that it hasn't worked simply because they decided, Erik, thanks, but no thanks. And they sacked him on Monday. And from then, they've moved very, very quickly. Yes, they've done due diligence on a number of candidates throughout this whole process. But in that time, I'm told that the only person that they spoke to was the sporting manager, Ruben Amorim. And what's happened since is that they've moved very, very quickly, very, very efficiently, to the point now that 4 days after Erik ten Hag was sacked by Manchester United, United have now announced that Amorim is their new head coach.
Given that there was only one man in the frame, have United had to compromise?
Slightly. So we were talking when Erik ten Hag was sacked and we knew that Ruben Amorim was the front runner to take on this job, there was talk of a €10 million release clause. Now, Sporting have since released a statement themselves saying that Manchester United have actually paid €11 million. So they've paid that little bit extra. I'm told it's nothing to do with the backroom staff. I'm told there's no problem with that. The €11 million that they are paying, which is in excess of the release clause that was in his contract initially, was to cut down the notice period. Because even if a club came in to get Ruben Amorim and paid the €10 million release clause, there was still a 30-day notice period that he had to serve with the club before he could move. Manchester United felt that was far too long. They wanted to get him as soon as possible. They probably wanted him in today. But they've managed to compromise with Sporting Lisbon by paying that extra bit of money. And with that extra bit of money, they've cut down that 30-day notice period to 10 days. So now Ruben Amorim is going to start his job on November the 11th. That's at the start of the international break. So it feels like a clean break for both Manchester United and for Sporting Lisbon. What that means is that he'll still be in charge for 3 more games for Sporting. The first one is tonight, which is quite significant. It's the first one since the announcement. So it'll be interesting to see the kind of reaction he's going to get from the Sporting fans ahead of their game against Estrella. Then on Tuesday, it's a small matter of a Champions League game at home to Manchester City.
Could be an immediate United hero, couldn't he?
He could. It's going to be his final home game in charge of Sporting, and it comes against Manchester United's noisy neighbours, Manchester City, in the Champions League. And then his final game, this has got a bit of symmetry to it as well, is going to be next weekend, and that's away to Braga. Now, Braga is the team that he managed before he went to Sporting. Now, Sporting themselves had to pay money and compensation to get him out of his Braga contract, rather like Manchester United have had to do to get him out of Sporting.
Is it significant that he is a head coach and not the manager?
It's a good question. Look, Manchester United have got this structure with Ineos. They've got a chief executive in Omar Barada. They've got a sporting director in Dan Ashworth. They've got a technical director in Jason Wilcox. And in that structure, the man who is going to be overseeing the first team is usually a head coach. Now, if you go back to what happened with Erik ten Hag, when he joined United in 2022, he signed a 3-year contract with a 1-year option as the manager of Manchester United, because United didn't have this structure in place at the time. Now, when they did that post-season review and decided to stick with Erik ten Hag, everyone thought, right, they're really backing the manager. In one way they were, because they kept him. And they said, we want you to do well and we want this to work out. We've seen clearly that it hasn't worked out. But what they did at the time was exercise the 1-year option in his contract on the same terms with the same title. So he remained as the manager of Manchester United. Whereas we do know that with the structure Ineos have, they want a head coach in situ. Now, people will ask, when it comes to being a head coach, what kind of say are you going to have on recruitment and on transfers? Because we've heard from Portuguese journalists that this guy here, Ruben Amorim, wants total control or big control when it comes to recruitment. Will he decide on his own who comes in and who goes out at Manchester United? 100% no. Will Manchester United sign players that Ruben Amorim doesn't want? 100% no. It is going to be a committee decision, rather like a lot of the big European clubs work, because they have a structure in place with all of these positions and a head coach who picks the team and coaches the team, but will still have a say on the table when it comes to recruitment. So he will have a say, but it is going to be as part of this structure now.
Now, Dharmesh, we've been here before, since Sir Alex Ferguson, with manager after manager after manager. I think he's sixth, isn't he? Has he got the credentials to do the job?
It's a good question. You can look at this in one of two ways. And one reason maybe Manchester United fans might be concerned is that he's only been managing in the Portuguese league. So is that a good enough step up to go from the Portuguese league to the Premier League? But you've also got to remember, he is a manager who has been coveted by plenty of big clubs, both in England and in Europe. And if you look at his record with Sporting Lisbon, when he joined them in June 2020, they just finished fourth in the league. They finished 22 points behind the leaders that season, that before he joined. His first full season at Sporting Lisbon, he wins the title. He won the title again last season. So those credentials, you would think, actually, he's seen a club that's notoriously done really, really well in their country, but then has just fallen on quite bad times. That first title that they'd won when he first came in was their first title in 19 years. You can kind of draw parallels with what's happening at Manchester United, joining a club that hasn't really won the league. They haven't won the league since 2013. They seem to be on the wane, but he's got experience of trying to lift a club from doldrums like that into a position like that. And how about this? You mentioned the 6 permanent managers. He is the 6th one since Sir Alex Ferguson retired in 2013. The last time Manchester United employed a permanent manager in November was in 1986. And who was it? Alex Ferguson.
No pressure, Ruben. Dharmesh, yeah, thank you very much.
Let's go back to Dawes. I was talking about the style we can expect under Amorim and saying that really his first job, picking up what Mer said, is to make them more difficult to play against because they've been too easy to play against. Old Trafford has not had that intimidatory factor that we saw in years gone by, has it?
And he's finding players that fit the bill. We've seen what he's done in at Sporting. We're playing a back three, so you're going to need wing backs. Probably got it with Dallow. Shaw on the other side, but in the middle of the park, you're going to have 2 that can run. That is one thing when you play with wing backs.
Well, Agate's going to be fascinating, isn't he? Because he played for him at Sporting.
Yeah, and do you know what, Simon? I criticised Erik ten Hag because he never plays. If you sign a player of his ability, and we've all sat on here last year talking about having energy in the middle of the park, he comes in for a game, misses 2, comes in. He needs a run of games. One thing he will get with the new manager, he'll get that because he knows him, he knows what he's all about, he's got energy, he needs to get up to match fitness, but you need to play games, and he's never been given that opportunity. So I think with the new manager coming in, it is going to take time. I echo what Mer said, and I said exactly the same when Erik ten Hag came in. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a different style of playing, different manager, different voice, but he will improve them because the job he's done at Sporting, he's gone there and done a great job, and he's got this opportunity, and ultimately, the Premier League is the best job in the world, and anybody who's managed, anybody who's played, the ultimate is to get to the Premier League, get your rewards, get your big contract, and then try and go and be successful. And he's a hard-working young manager, and he's worked hard to get this opportunity to arguably the best job in the world, the best football club in the world. And good luck to him. When any manager goes in, I've never been in that hot seat, and I wouldn't like them pressures. He's going to be under a different kind of scrutiny. But everyone you listen to who's followed Sporting Lisbon for a long time, the fans, they love and appreciate what he's done. And these Manchester United fans now are going to have to back him, get behind him, be patient in moments in this season and probably for the next season as well, because it's not going to be easy for him to implement his style of play. But good luck to him. What an opportunity, and he deserves it.
Final question on this, Merce, before we move on and take a break. Are United fans justified in being exciting about this appointment? Are you excited for what this might mean for the Premier League and for Manchester United?
I'm excited to see how good he is, because what he's done at Sporting Lisbon is phenomenal. But
Remarkable.
Sporting Lisbon to here, to Manchester United, with a massive football club like Dahl says, one of the biggest clubs in the world, but they're not one of the biggest teams in the world.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. It's going to be interesting how it works because he's had success. He's gone in and broke up that Porto, Benfica. He's got to come in and it's all start all over again. He's going to start losing football matches. Hasn't lost a lot of football matches in the last 2-3 years. That takes, you know, when you're not used to losing football matches, then you start losing games. How's he going to react? How's it going? The pressure's going to get. You know, this is a huge, huge job. I'm interested to see how he gets on because he ticks all the boxes. But this league is it's like scoring 60 goals, 50 goals in the Championship, and then you go and sign for Man United and you've got to get 60 goals in the Premier League. It's hard, but I wish him all the best.
First, though, to Ruben Amorim, who's faced the media for the first time since being confirmed as the new head coach of Manchester United.
He's revealed that he wanted to delay his arrival at Old Trafford until the end of the season, but was told it was now or never by the United leadership.
And just hours after being confirmed as Erik ten Hag's replacement, Amorim led Sporting to a 5-1 league win over Estrella.
These are life cycles. We have to look for new things. I had decided last year would be my last season with Sporting. I had already talked to the president, and this year, in a formal meeting, I said it. That was my decision. I felt that sometimes we have to change. And we the president can confirm if he wants, we're already preparing the future. Manchester United appear. They paid above the clause, the cancellation, the compensation clause, and the president defended the club's interest. I never discussed anything with the president about this bargaining. The only question I made was only to go in the end of the season. For 3 days, I said I wanted to stay until the end of the season, but I was told it was not possible. It was now or never, or Manchester would go for another option. So I had 3 days to make to make my mind up, to make a decision that changes radically my life. But I had 3 days to make this decision. That's what I did. I've had other opportunities. The president and Hugo Viana can confirm this. It is not the first or the second time that I have been requested by another team, and I don't want another team. After Sporting, I wanted that one, Manchester. And I want that context because that context allows me to do things my way, and the club believes me that way. It's just like Sporting. And there's a time when I have to take a step forward in my career. That's what happened. It was harder to me than to any Sporting fan, believe me, but I had to do this.
Right, well, Amorim has agreed a contract until 2027 to become the 6th permanent manager at the club since Sir Alex Ferguson retired 11 years ago now.
Well, after Ten Hag signed a number of his former Ajax players, Amorim's arrival has started speculation that he could target Sporting stars such as Victor Gyökeres, but he has denied that is his plan.
Gyökeres costs 100 million. It's very complicated. I'm not going to take any of Sporting's players in January, but that's another story. Now, as far as the supporters are concerned, I told before, this was the best time, these were the best times of my life. The people at Sporting know how important they were to me. I understand the disappointment of certain fans. I know that they are divided, given everything we did together, and now I live amidst a season that can be historical. But this is not the farewell yet. We still have to play Manchester City on Tuesday, and then Braga to keep the first place. So no farewells yet.
So clear disappointment from everyone connected with Sporting that Amorim is leaving in 9 days' time, none more so than their president, Federico Varandas, but he was able to make a joke of the negotiations with Manchester United.
Good evening. One first note, it's true that negotiations with Manchester United were difficult. but that's not because it's not because of that I have my eye like this, but I had to have a minor surgery, some beauty signs. Now, of course, this situation with Manchester United is not what we wanted. We didn't want it to happen like this. The coach's decision, as is said, was different. He thought it was the time to go. We respect that, and so we just anticipated in 7 months what was already decided.